meeting. There will be time for public participation as indicated by the agenda. The meeting site is fully accessible. Any person requiring further accommodation should contact the superintendent at the school corporation central office. Before we begin our meeting this evening, it's customary that we begin with a word of prayer. Mrs. Hutchison? Sure.
Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us safely thus far through this week. Be with the school board administration as we make some decisions in the future, and with the community also as they hear the plans for the exciting growth coming to our community. Be with the teachers and the parents and the students in these last few days of school. Help them to concentrate as much as possible, and give us all a safe end of the school year. And we thank you that we are able to have graduation and see our students to the next phase of their lives. And may this meeting be informational and give us wisdom and guidance as we make decisions for the future. In your name I pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right, we'll call our meeting to order. Since we have several students, when we do have students here, we like you to help us lead the pledge. So if there are any students who would like to come forward, please don't be shy. If you would rather not, you can stay in your seat, but please join us in the front if you want.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call. Everyone is present, which means we have a quorum. Mission statement, Mr. Parks.
Lebanon Community School Corporation will cultivate and reach every student by influencing and enriching their lives through the power of education, and do so in a positive and safe learning environment.
Okay, thank you. Item 2, approval of minutes for the April 20th, 2021 regular meeting. I'd like a motion to approve those, please. Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments on that? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, minutes pass. Item 3, certify executive session content. We also held an executive session on April 20th. I'd like a motion to approve the minutes for that meeting as well.
All motion.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments on that?
No.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Item 4, consent agenda staff matters. Dr. Milliman.
Thank you, Mrs. Keith. This evening for your consideration for our classified staff, we have a custodial position, sub-teaching position, which will cover a maternity leave. For our certified staff this evening, 2 maternity leaves, 2 resignations, 3 retirements, 2 elementary recommendations for one for special education and 1 regular classroom teaching position, 1 middle school recommendation for an English language arts position, and 2 high school mathematics positions. Under extracurricular for this evening, Phil Levine is requesting approval of Emily Benatsky as the new Lebanon High School head volleyball coach. Those are all the recommendations I have this evening for staff
Okay.
matters.
All right, thank you. Like a motion to approve classified, certified, and ECA staff matters as one motion, please.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
Any questions on any of those items? All right, no questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you. I'd like to pause for a moment after passage of that motion to circle back to the 3 retirements, if I could,
Yep.
momentarily. That you just approved. We're always very happy for our retirees as they enter another chapter, but want to take a moment and thank everyone for their service. We have Mrs. Outcout, Rebecca Outcout, principal at Central Elementary, who was retirement was just reluctantly recommended by the superintendent and approved by the board. Thank you so much for your service to the district. Sue Furman, she says it's for real this time. We'll see. Is a legend among us, and we certainly will miss her, both in the classroom, and I know we'll miss her from a culture and climate standpoint, right, Mr. Dungy? So we've enjoyed all of what she's offered our students for so many years. And Cheryl Hollingsworth, also at the middle school in our business department, preparing our students with those employability skills that are so important as they move on through high school and beyond. We will circle back to our retirees and give them some more accolades later, but I did want to make sure that I mentioned that this evening and thank them publicly for their time and service.
Well, thank you for pointing that out. It's a lot of years of service, but I'm sure we'll accumulate all of those statistics later, but thank you. All right, item 5, consent agenda business matters. Mr. Tate.
Yes, my pleasure to report to the school board and the community this evening. Our monthly financial report shows these percentages expended as of April 30th. Education fund is at 31.44%. Operations fund at 26.59%. At this time, I'd ask for permission of approval of the claims numbered 53244 through 53438 and the payrolls dated April 30th and May 14th. The claims total $1,978,556. The payrolls total $1,684,623.40 for a total of $3,663,179.40.
Okay, thank you. Board, I'd like a motion to approve claims for payments number 53244 through 53438 and payrolls for April 30th and May 14th, 2021. Okay. A second, please.
I'll second.
Any questions on those items? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6, board recognition, Tiger Pride Awards. Dr. Milliman.
Thank you, and I will as is customarily so, I will ask Mrs. Scott to come forward.
Good evening, everyone. I'm excited to be here as we close out the school year to recognize our May Tiger Pride champions that'll join me at the podium this evening. As you know, it's a busy time with summer or spring commitments in sports, so there are a few that we will recognize in their honor, but that could not be here with us this evening. From Lebanon High School, first we'll recognize Summer Stogsdill. Summer is a standout athlete, student, and leader at LHS who always exemplifies all aspects of pride in everything that she does. Summer has earned a 4.0 GPA while taking honors, AP, and dual credit courses. She's also a DECA state qualifier, a 12-year member of Girl Scouts, an assistant teacher at her church, a volunteer at the Humane Society, and if she's not busy enough in the summer, she's a captain lifeguard at Seashore Water Park. While Summer is clearly very accomplished young lady, she is also very committed to just being a good person. So we're excited to recognize Summer this evening. LHS staff has also nominated Mr. Matthew Keefe as a Tiger Pride champion. Matthew exemplifies all aspects of pride in all that he does as a student athlete and servant leader. Academically, he demonstrates pride through his exemplary grades while challenging himself by taking numerous AP courses such as AP Calculus, AP Language, and AP Government. He also exemplifies pride outside of the classroom as an athlete, role model, and dedicated leader of the FCA club here at the high school. Matthew truly stands for all that is right and is good through his words, but more importantly through his actions. He inspires others to be the best person they can be, and you can always count on Matthew to step up when there is a need in not only the school, but also our community. LHS is blessed to have Matthew as a leader during his time here at LHS. Next up, from Lebanon Middle School, we have Miss Riley Vaniman. You can come up here, right? As Riley comes up to meet with Dr. Milliman, the Bulldog team shared that Riley is always exhibiting pride in and outside of the classroom. She frequently extends a warm smile and a hello to students and staff in the building. She steps out of her comfort zone frequently and is determined to push herself to succeed. She sets goals that are obtainable and realistic, both short-term and long-term, and is a dependable student who performs tasks well and without hesitation. Riley takes initiative in offering to assist her peers and teachers whenever they need a helping hand. Riley is very personal and truly cares about her education and her future. Congratulations, Riley. The swag team at LMS has also nominated Marina Barr. Marina is an amazing young lady. As an 8th grader, she's a multi-sport athlete, as well as an academic scholar. She maintains high grades even while being busy with practices and sporting events. She's the first to offer help however she can while going above and beyond. She helps students in the classroom as well as assists teachers when needed. She's kind and helpful to all around her and has the desire to learn and understand. The Bulldog team is proud of Marina and they wish her luck as she moves on to the high school next year. Congratulations, Marina. From Central, nominated by Mrs. Shirley, we have Mr. Andrew Kaler tonight. Mrs. Shirley shared that Andrew is a leader who constantly displays all of the characteristics of Tiger Pride, as well as the 7 habits of highly effective people. Mrs. Shirley has had the pleasure of not only being Andrew's teacher this year, but also watching him lead his baseball team through a challenging season. He truly has a heart for others. It doesn't matter whether he is in class or on the field, he does his best, encourages everyone around him to do the same. Both his classmates and his teammates know that they can count on him. Andrew works very hard in school and strives to earn good grades. He perseveres through challenging tasks and refuses to give up. He is both proactive and dependable. Andrew has the initiative and drive to do anything he sets his mind to. Everyone at Central is proud to send Andrew to LMS. Congratulations. From Harney, we have Miss Aveline Orr, nominated by her teacher, Ms. Storms. Aveline's teacher shared that she has been nominated as this Tiger Pride champion this month because she has shown ongoing initiative, leadership, and dedication in 5th grade at Harney Elementary. As a young student, she helps and encourages her peers each day and is always challenging herself during class time. She's a perfect example of a Tiger Pride champion. Ms. Storms also shared that she's had the honor of teaching Aveline in 4th and 5th grade and knows that she's going to do amazing things in her future. Congratulations. From Hattie B. Stokes, we have Mr. Jackson Brown. Ms. Hardy, his teacher, shared that Jackson is an exemplary student academically, excelling in both math and reading. He's an efficient learner, constantly gathering new intel from another book, article, or text. He thinks carefully and critically about what he reads, understanding the struggles of people around the world, and realizing the limitations of any text to the perspective of its author. His knowledge gives him the ability to relate to anyone and start a conversation about nearly anything. As a classmate, Jackson shows empathy and care for others at every opportunity. He's quick to help a student with an assignment, scattered papers, or trouble with a friend. They are proud to recognize Jackson as the Tiger Pride champion for Hattie B. Stokes. Congrats. And last but not least, from Perry Worth, we have Harley Scheidler. Harley is nominated by her teacher, Mr. Waywood. Harley is the type of individual who challenges herself on a daily basis. She involves herself in so many enriching activities and is able to balance that with her family life and her schoolwork. She's hardworking and tenacious. When you talk to Harley, it is clear that she respects herself, her teachers, and her fellow students. She's consistently kind and patient. She's a member of the Spell Bowl, Math Bowl, Running Club, and participates in basketball programs at the middle school. She prides herself in her math abilities and is an exceptional problem solver, sharing her knowledge with those around her. She is a leader in the classroom and is able to be given minimal instruction in order to produce high-quality products. Congratulations to Harley Scheidler from Perry Worth. I think this is a testament of what the middle school and the high school are getting ready to get as sixth graders and freshmen next year. So congratulations to those students. In addition, tonight's our night that we would recognize a community pride champion. The high school has nominated Mr. John Messenger from Lebanon Parks and Recreation, and that sounds like the show, sorry, Lebanon Parks Department. Didn't think about that. It's a new TV show. With that being said, Mr. Messenger couldn't join us this evening, but we did still want to share the words that were given by the high school for Mr. Messenger. Mr. Messenger is always been an incredible, accommodating partner whenever it's requested. He truly loves our community and is always willing to support the schools when that assistance is needed. He works closely with the athletics department as the school uses the park's baseball field. He allows our teams to access the park pool, the track and cross-country teams to often use the park facilities, and many of the teams meet at the park for family events. The high school has also partnered with the park for 5K runs, senior last walks, and recently to borrow picnic tables for teachers to eat outside for some COVID relief. No matter the need, Mr. O'Rourke shared that John always finds a way to be a great partner for the benefit of the students and the staff. We truly and greatly appreciate the amazing relationship that we have with Mr. Messenger and the Lebanon Parks Department as a whole. Once a tiger, always a tiger. Congratulations.
Thank you. Very good. Item 7, Dr. Milliman, Superintendent announcements and celebrations.
Yes, I just need to get the correct screen up here. We have several for this evening. Just wanted to share with the board that we were pleased to recognize all of our staff, teacher appreciation and staff appreciation. Recently, we provided with the help of Lebanon Education Foundation and partnering with them with matching their funds, we provided our certified staff with $50 Amazon cards last week, and we worked with the Community Foundation, which was part of their gift, if you recall, from about a year ago, and we dedicated that for staff appreciation. We utilized those funds to match that as well for our classified staff as well. So all employees of Lebanon schools received a $50 gift card. Now all their spouses know that they have it. And so it was our pleasure to provide that to them, and it's a small, very small token of our appreciation, and we hope they enjoy that. We recently also celebrated our 6 distinguished educators from around the district, from each building. Each educator was selected by his or her colleagues, and we want to congratulate Casey Anderson, who's here this evening from Central, Sabrina Blair from Perry Worth, Katie Kramer from Hattie B. Stokes, Andy Dardini at the high school, Bethany Newsom at Harney Elementary, and Lisa Woolley from Lebanon Middle School. And we're pleased to announce that Bethany Newsom was selected by our leadership team and nominations by their principals, and we selected Bethany Newsom as the Teacher of the Year for Lebanon Community Schools, and she will go on to compete at the state level. We wish her well as she's preparing her application for that, and thank all of our teachers for all the amazing work they do for our students. Recently, 3 teachers from Lebanon High School were recognized as Lighthouse Leaders by the Indiana Department of Education. This is a nomination for their work with our special needs students. They're nominated by special education staff, and they support guidance and assistance for all of those students in need. So we'd like to congratulate Marilyn Connor, Andy Dardini, and Valerie Sanders for that honor. We're very proud to share tonight that 9 members of the Lebanon High School DECA team competed virtually. We talked about that in the previous meeting. Competed virtually at the DECA International competition this year. The teams of Natalie Defoe, Kushi Patel, Ella Taylor, and Abby Thomas advanced to the international finals, placing in the top 10% of their respective categories. Natalie and Kushi finished 5th place, and Ella and Abby finished 8th place. Only 11 Indiana DECA students placed in the top 10, and so we had, I believe, 5 of those placing in that top 10%. That's pretty amazing and great work on their part. I'd like to share also some news that came across the wire yesterday evening, which is why I'm reading this. I had printed it out, and I actually had to type this back on the screen. Garrett Harker, pitcher for our baseball team, was named the Region K representative to go on to compete for the State Indiana Baseball Player of the Year. And our head coach, Mr. Rick Cosgrave, was also nominated by his peers to represent Region K for Indiana Coach of the Year. So crossing our fingers for them, and thank them for that, and they're having a tremendous season, and that's all I'm going to say because I don't want to jinx anything that's rolling in their favor right now. So we'll be watching that closely. I want to congratulate the Performing Arts Department, a fantastic performance of the Addams Family recently. It was professional level.
Yes.
Our concert band, Pop's concert was a recent concert as well. Our choirs, all of the performing arts has just done an outstanding job, but I was really taken back by how well done that musical was, and under unusual circumstances, right, to prepare for that. So congratulations to everyone.
It
who
was
contributed in
excellent.
that.
It
Yeah,
was.
he's right. Tired of saying that. 6 students. This is also hot off the press from Ms. Salmon. We found out today that we had 6 students from Hattie B. Stokes that had a perfect score on their iRead 3 test. So congratulations to those scholars. Can't tell you who they are, but congratulations to those scholars. So, and well done to the staff and everyone there. So that's exciting news. Thank you. There's even more. Mrs. Westerfield had 100% of her class pass the iRead 3. So that's even additional good work for that. I would like to take a moment and thank the school board at this meeting for the time that you've dedicated for the school visits. For everyone's information, we set up school visits with the school board at all 6 of our schools. Thank you to the principals and staff that welcomed them, gave us information about the goals you're working on, opened your classrooms to us so we could see the teaching and learning in action in Lebanon schools. And I know I can speak for the board in saying we're tremendously impressed by that work. And I just want to thank the board for taking that time out of their work lives and personal lives to learn more about what's happening in the schools. That speaks volumes about our school board. So thank you for doing that on behalf of the district. And lastly, just wanted to, the elephant in the room, which is an unfortunate way to end the year for our 8th grade students last week. And we just appreciate, one more time, everybody's flexibility through that process. It was just an unfortunate set of circumstances that escalate. And it's difficult to make those calls, especially when it's such an important grade as they're transitioning to the high school. So just wanted to mention that and thank everyone for rolling with it one more time. So that's all I have this evening.
Thank you. Well, up until that last part, that was a really
Very good.
impressive list. But, yes, thank you. Excellent. All right. Item A, comments from the public. I don't believe we have anyone, so no one signed in to do that, so nothing for item 8. Item 9, we have several action items, so we will just be taking them one letter at a time. So, Mrs. Outcult, you are first. And congratulations on your retirement. You will be missed.
Thank you very much. Well, we do have, for the 21-22 elementary handbook, just some minimal edits this spring. One you'll note on page 6, just kind of an update to students and parents, their responsibility and iPad computer damages, and encouraging them to look into some insurance plans. That information also will be pushed out via all the elementary schools in the fall. So there's that. That's update. Then we move on to page 18. We did add a procedure to report an absent. We would like to have a written note requirement when students return from an absence. There are times when kids are unexcused and we don't know what reason there was for their absence. So for those parents that choose not to call in and record it as an unexcused, it helps us track the situation. So there's that addendum as well. Outside of that, there was no major other edits except for page number 10. We did make some updates on the LCSE dress standards. I'm going to invite my colleague, Mr. Dunshee from the middle school, to join me. The reason for the change was to really align what we're doing at the elementary with the middle school. And you want to add some more to that so they have a little more backdrop on that?
Sure. You know, as you look at community standards and the way things change, we hadn't looked at the dress code for quite a while, especially in terms of jeans and the fashion trends, and we don't want to be fashion police. That's not what we're trying to do, but just to give a little more flexibility for families when you go out to the store and it's tough to find anything that doesn't have holes in it somewhere, but still keep a little bit of our requirements that it's not just a thread of fabric and whole is most of the jeans. So we came up with some language, and after going back and forth several times with different iterations of it, came up with the requirement, and I lost my page there. It says no holes above fingertip length or in violation of any dress code requirement in there. So when we settled on that language, that pretty much goes with our shorts. So, you know, if you're wearing shorts, you don't have anything below the short length. So what's the difference if it's got a hole that's below the short length as well? So that's kind of the reasoning behind it. Everybody has their opinion on them as far as what it does, but we looked at some of the research, Hattie's research on effect sizes. If you want to go back and look at the research on that, it doesn't have much effect on student learning. So we're trying to not worry about things that don't affect student learning and concentrate on that. And I would entertain any questions along with theirs, or if you want to wait till my presentation, which is even shorter than that.
Maybe you just gave yours.
Yes.
Well,
Being a mother of boys, I can tell you they always had holes below their knees because they always ripped the knees out of their pants. So that will save a lot of families from having to constantly buy new pants.
And we like the part where it says it cannot violate any other part of the dress code. So if it's got a hole that shows underwear or a hole that shows, you know, whatever it may be, if it's a safety issue, that was another thing. You know, what if they're going to PE or they're, you know, out on the playground or whatever? Safety issues are going to be another thing. So the rips, tears, shreds actually goes back to the skater jeans. If you remember back in the day where they'd rip them up the sides, the longboard skaters, that was where that rips, tears, shreds came from. Well, they don't wear those anymore. So it was a little outdated, so we just refreshed it.
well, and I think too, when Dr. Milliman brought that to the board, the point was made that kids are losing instructional time for items that you, in your discretion, don't feel are worth losing instructional time.
It was a bigger disruption, in our opinion. Again, I can speak for the middle school. It was a bigger disruption to our educational environment to deal with it than it was when they were sitting in class doing their work and they had a hole in their knee.
Okay. Thank you. All right, well, I would like a motion to approve the elementary handbook as presented by Mrs. Outcalt.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, thank you. Second? All right, I know we just entertain questions, but anything else before we vote? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Item B, middle school handbook.
Other than the dress code, we standardized that across the 3 buildings, so that statement is in all 3. So other than that, we only added one thing, and that had to do with Title IX compliance. We didn't actually have anything specifically in the handbook, and I don't recall what the actual page is on, 38, I believe. So notification of how you report a Title IX violation or any questions with Title IX. It actually lists that we have a coordinator for all that, so that's just something that we hadn't had in our handbook before, that on the advice of Mr. Martin, we put that in there. And I don't know if that's standard across all three as well.
It's
or-
actually a piece of the new Title IX guidance to make sure that the notifications are in all those locations, as well as website and our Title IX coordinator location where the complaints can be filed, et cetera. So it's just one.
So
one
we
more
put
thing.
ours in the Title IX under, and the sexual harassment area is where that is located. So if people had any questions, they could go to that area. That was our only other addition, other than page numbers and title changes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Any questions? All right, like a motion to approve the middle school handbook, please.
I'll make a motion.
A second?
A second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Middle school handbook passes as well. Mr. O'Rourke? High school handbook, please.
Thank you. Good evening. I would like to start once again by thanking the many people that play a role in going through this and working on it. It's definitely a team effort, and Madison Smith, our building secretary, puts it all together, so they deserve the credit. I guess in summary, the big changes are updating dates and updating just the normal things. As been mentioned, the dress code is a K through 12 item, so we've updated that. We updated some language with National Honor Society to try to increase opportunities for students to be involved with it. I'm happy to talk a little bit about that if you're curious. Once again, Title IX information from Mr. Martin, and just some dual credit things and some language, but pretty standard every year as we just update, making sure that our current dual credits match what's in our handbook. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have on any changes.
Okay. Any questions? Could you elaborate just a little bit on the National Honor Society
Absolutely,
and
yes.
what and why?
Yeah, it's something I've been pretty passionate about for a while. I think we've been a little too selective with National Honor Society over the years. To me, it's really about trying to give kids opportunities, and our standards. Not that I like to have high standards, but we also want to give our kids equal opportunity that they have at other schools. And so what we've done for a long time is we made it very difficult to get in, and then it was kind of a small group. We'd have years where we'd only have maybe 10 or 11 juniors get accepted into NHS. So we've bumped the GPA up a little bit, but it's a weighted GPA, so 3.6 is not tremendously high. I looked at our class rankings for several years, and that would go down to about 60 students. And we're going to not scrutinize quite as much on the other areas because we have a lot of kids that have to work. We have a lot of kids that may be an athlete and an academic person, and they don't have time for some of the other community service. So our goal is to get them in, and then when we get them in, help them grow and maintain some expectations when they're in there. So NHS doesn't become you get in and then it kind of stops. It becomes, let's get more people in and grow. So that's kind of our mindset with it.
No, I think that's great. Good. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, thank you. All right, I'd like a motion to approve the high school handbook, please. Second?
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes, and you're up next. Look at that.
Thank you.
LHS course guide.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this opportunity to come to the board and ask your permission to add this to our current course description for the 2021-2022 school year. We've had the opportunity to, as one of the math teachers that we've hired, to hire an experienced calculus teacher that is certified with IU's ACP program. As many of you are probably aware, we've had ACP English for over 20 years here, which allows our students to get W131 and L202 credit, and that's really popular with a lot of our students to get that transcripted credit. They actually get 6 dual credits throughout the year. So now we have a teacher that is credentialed and certified through IU and has the credit hours required to be able to offer the IU calculus So they would get actual transcripted credit as opposed to having to get a certain score on the AP exam. Now, we are hedging our bet a little bit because we know some students need to take the AP exam because some colleges don't take the IU transcripted credit. And so we'll still provide the AP exam at the end of the year if a student chooses to take it, but I have a feeling most will be happy with the transcripted IU credit. So we just would like to ask your approval to be able to promote and allow our students to take the IU credit calculus next year.
Okay. Well, that's excellent. You found a new teacher with those kind of credentials.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah, we're really excited about that.
It'd be better to be a Purdue one, but you know, it's okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think it's excellent.
Do you have any questions about the program as a whole?
So what schools, what higher education schools would not accept the IU?
Yeah,
Is that more private schools?
It's
or?
more the private, a little bit more of your elite schools. Like, for example, we've had students that know they want to go to like to Notre Dame or an Ivy League school, and they prefer the AP credit, and so they'll take the AP exam. So, for example, we offer AP Lang. The students will take AP Lang as seniors as opposed to the ACP course.
Okay.
With the nature of calculus and the size of the enrollment right now, we're going to keep those together. There may be a day if it grows enough that we can split those apart, but for now, I think we've got like 16 or 17 kids. We're hoping to get that back in the 40s. I think we can, that's our kind of our goal is to get to at least 2 healthy sections of first year calc.
Okay.
We should have that at our school our size.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Like a motion to approve the revised course description guide for the high school.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. E, approval of 2020-2021 summer school staff. Mrs. Ottinger.
Want to come on up? She was
Dr.
reluctant.
Mellon.
She was
Or
reluctant
who?
earlier.
Oh, I don't like talking. I just just roll it in. So I come in front of you. You have your the background notes regarding summer school. So every year we come to you with the teachers that we are recommending for teaching summer school. As you see this year, we'll be offering elementary K through 3. And then we will also be offering 3 different options for high school students. One will be in person, the other one will be Canvas, and then one will be Play-Doh. And you've got the teachers listed for each one of those sections. Please note that contracts will not be awarded until we have a 15-to-1 ratio. At this point, we do have 15-to-1 for elementary, so all of those will be a go. The high school, we will wait until this Friday, next Monday, to finalize those, because we need to look where kids fall and what classes they need to take. And the teachers are very well aware of this. Michael Reynolds does an excellent job at the high school. Every Friday he sends out an email to the teachers that are signing for summer school and gives them a status update as far as enrollment. So they're very much aware of where the enrollment lies.
All right, very good. Thank you. I'd like a motion to approve the summer school staff, please.
I'll motion.
A second?
I'll second.
Any questions on that? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. All right, Mr. Tate, recommendation to build a storage barn.
Yes, this has come about as a need because we added pole vault, so we have all the pole vault pits and equipment. Also, with the football field becoming turf, it has a lot more use for both athletics and for our extracurricular band program. So we're in need of some more storage out there. So 3 quotes were obtained. Our recommendation is Cleary Building at $43,367. This project will be paid for out of funds from the 2018 GEO bond. As stated in the background notes, the projects that came through the 2018 GEO bond came in lower than our estimates, plus we've earned over $157,000 of interest with that bond since we took the funds in our possession. So that makes this project doable under our 2018 fund for GEO bond. So recommendation is to contract with Cleary Building for that project.
Okay, thank you. I'd like a motion to approve the building of a new storage barn at the high school track, please.
I'll motion.
A second? Any questions for Mr. Tate on that?
I'll just ask the question that I'd asked when I saw this stuff. It states that the purchaser shall obtain all the permits. I want to make sure that
We've pushed that back to Cleary. It's their responsibility to get
should
the
we go
permits.
ahead and then strike that from this?
The recommendation is Cleary will do the work. We're going to make sure that they get the permits.
Okay.
Yep.
The agenda doesn't state that, so you should be fine.
Okay.
Actually, approving is just a simple.
Yeah.
And where is the building going?
There's a storage barn out there now behind the home bleachers.
Right.
It'll be in that vicinity.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be inside the fence for security, but yeah, in that vicinity. Unless we strike oil, then I'll put it someplace else.
And it is wide enough for the poles, right? I mean.
Yeah, it is.
Will it house all the new track equipment? We've got hurdles,
We got
we
new
have the other
hurdles, new
mats, we have,
carts.
there's a lot of nice equipment out there right now.
So we still we have the current barn that
Mhm.
will still be utilized for that. But this
Okay.
gives us both room for the band and athletics
Okay.
in the new facility.
Great. All right. Okay, all those in favor of building a new storage barn, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that work will be done this summer, I'm assuming?
That's the plan.
That's the plan.
If they can get the materials and the labor.
This is true, so, okay. Okay, 2021-22 breakfast and lunch prices, Mr. Tate.
So in consultation with Jennifer Rice, we worked together on recommendation for the next year's breakfast and lunch prices. As stated in your background notes, the federal government is going to continue so that all students will receive free lunch and free breakfast next school year. So while we're bringing a recommendation to you for a higher price, it really will not affect anyone next year because they're still free meals. But I wanted to bring you a modest increase at this time so there wouldn't be a large increase on the books next year. So that's the logic behind that. So we're recommending no change in breakfast prices, but a 15-cent increase across the board on the lunch prices.
Okay. Great, thank you. Like a motion to approve the lunch prices for the 21-22 school year, please.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Any questions on that?
We will send out information to parents closer to the start of school year, reminding folks that the lunches are paid, so they're not sending in deposits that are unnecessary
Checks for the account.
to do that. So we just haven't pushed that out tremendously hard right now because we're at the end of the year, not the beginning. But
Yeah.
we'll have some information going out.
Great, thank you.
Can I ask a quick question on that? Do you mind?
No.
So are we looking at an every year increase for lunches for cafeteria? Is that, I think it's been last couple years.
We look at it every year, and there's some federal requirements that we have to meet on what prices we put out there to continue to get government supplements. So there's
Okay.
lots of moving pieces on that Jennifer is real good about. So we do look at it every year, and we do bring a recommendation every year. It's not always an increase.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Are we doing anything in the summer time?
Yes.
Yes, Jennifer and
Okay. Good.
I think we're actually working on trying to streamline that through either some type of Google form or an app or something of that nature. I'm not exactly sure what it would look like, but that way she has a little bit more solid knowledge about how much to prepare
Okay.
through that process. Is that correct?
Great, thank you.
And the students at summer school, K through 3, will be getting breakfast and lunch.
All right, all those in favor of the breakfast and lunch prices signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Resolution to transfer reoccurring amounts from the Education Fund to the Operations Fund. Mr. Tate.
Okay, since this is new for most of you, I put in front of you this evening, you found a stapled piece of paper, 2 pieces of paper. So I'll just try and briefly go through this. I don't want to bury you in it, but to give you some background. In 2019, the state restructured the funds. Prior to 2019, we had a general fund, capital projects, bus replacement, transportation operation. They restructured that to just an education fund and an operations fund. So the transportation, the bus replacement, the capital projects, all those expenses went into the operation fund. And from the general fund, anything that was non-educationally involved at the buildings was also in the operation fund. So that leaves your education fund now as a concentrated, what's going on in the building that relates to education. So that would be your teaching staff, your aides, your secretaries, your principals, not your custodians, not the utilities, because that's over in operations. So when they restructured this, they gave us permission to transfer along their guidance of not more than 15% of the state monthly draw into operations, because they moved some of the expenses from here to here, so they're allowing us to move some of the money from here to here. But now we basically work under 2 funds, education and operations, along with the debt. So with that, in your education fund, as I stated, you've got expenditures in the educational site, teachers, instructional assistants, counselors, secretaries, librarians, nurses, supplies for the classrooms, and professional development. In your operations, you have all your transportation costs now, building, instruction and equipment, building repairs, wages for the central office staff, transportation staff, custodial maintenance, utilities, communications, legal expenditures, technology expenditures. Those are the main expenses from that. So as I am working on the calendar year 2022 budget, I have to get resolutions passed by the board to give to the DLGF, Department of Local Government Finance, that this is what we're committing on transfers on a monthly basis. You can summarize it on an annual, but I've stayed with monthly. So on your next sheet there, I gave you some history and then some what I'm projecting forward. So you can see in 2019, we were transferring $275,000 a month from the education to the operation to cover those expenses that were moved over. That was placing us at about 14% of our revenue coming in on the education fund. So the recommendation was 15% or less. So we've been at 14% that first round. We stayed with $275,000 through June of 2020, which again kept us at about 14%. We then lowered in July of 2020 the transfer to $260,000, and we're staying with that through June of 2021. So full fiscal year there. That placed us at 13.3% of our revenue that we were transferring out. With the projections on the new funding coming from the state, they've raised the amount per student, they've raised the amount for special education. So in anticipation that we're going to receive more revenue in the education fund, I'm recommending that we increase our transfer now monthly. So my first recommendation is for, get the resolution here, I'm sorry. The first resolution is to set our transfer amount to $265,000 for July 2021 through December of 2021. Then the next resolution covers the next 12 months. That's to have $275,000 transferred from January through June of 2022. And then again, we'll be on the next fiscal year where we are anticipating more revenue again, starting in July of 2022. So my recommendation is then our transfers will be $285,000 a month. If you go back to the spreadsheet now, and in the projections that I have on revenue and what I'm recommending on transfers, will be at 13.5% and 13.7%. So we'll actually be well below the 15% guideline. So I'm requesting approval of the first resolution, which sets our transfers July through December 2021 at $265,000 a month, and then the second resolution, which establishes transfer $275,000 a month for January through June of 2022, $285,000 a month for July through December of 2022. Entertain any questions or concerns on that. I hope that gives you enough background to the purpose for this.
Thank you for the explanation. It's very
You're
helpful.
Thank you.
There's a lot of moving pieces. So it'll make more sense to you in August as I badger you with budget stuff.
Then you will get every little piece.
You didn't tell them about the written test, did you, Liz?
Not really. Are there any other questions? I think that was a good explanation. Thank you, but anything else? Okay. All right, so we will take one section at a time. So item H is a resolution to transfer the recurring amounts for 2021, so the remainder of this calendar year. So I'd like a motion to approve that, please.
I'll motion.
Okay, and second? All right, all those in favor of that resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Okay, motion passes. Next is the resolution to transfer the reoccurring amounts for 2022 as presented by Mr. Tate. A motion to approve that?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. A second?
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion passes.
Thank you.
As well. All right, and resolution to reduce appropriations for 2021.
Okay, so when the state approves our budget, they give you approved appropriations. Appropriations is the ability to spend. It's the lawful, you can expend this money. You may have more money than that, but you only have the permission to expend this. So if I give my child $10 and I say you only can spend $5, they have 10, but I only appropriated 5. As far as that's what the language of appropriations is, the ability to spend. So this is a budgetary process that begins now. I'm working on the 2022 budget, and when we get to the work session in August, you always hear me say, this is 18 months, this is 18 months, this is 18 months. So I'm really working on July 2021 through December 2022. So at this time, I review what I anticipate our expenditures to be, compare that to what appropriations were approved for the calendar year. If I don't anticipate spending all of our appropriations, it's to our advantage to reduce the appropriations, then that opens up more window room, cushion room in the 2022 budget. So in looking at what I anticipate our expenditures being for the remainder of this calendar year, I'm bringing to you a recommendation that we lower our operating fund appropriations by $500,000 and our education appropriations by $200,000. Ask approval for that resolution, please.
Okay. All right, I would like a motion to approve the resolution to reduce appropriations as presented by Mr. Tate. Motion to approve that, please.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. A second? Any questions about that? No.
No.
Good explanation.
Thanks for underspending, I guess. That's
It's better with charts. We'll have charts in August, I bet.
We'll have chart.
Color-coded spreadsheets. Uh-huh. Yep. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Thank you very much.
Motion passes as well, and you're up again.
So I'd ask
Contact-
Mr. Jim Walling to come forward on this, and I'm going to ask him, first of all, give us an update on the chiller installations here at the high school, and then follow through with a recommendation of the installation of the air handlers at Harney.
Okay, great.
I'm pleased to report to the board the conditioned air that we're enjoying right now is provided by the chiller that you, most of you bought, or some of you, I guess, bought in 2020. We're finally done with our 2020 projects, the football field, the tennis courts, the welding lab, and finally the chiller.
Nice.
Just in time to get started on our 2021 projects that start in 2 weeks. So we're very happy about that. It's a very positive thing. The chiller's operating very well. So really happy about that. Glad to report it. The next item I would like to recommend to the board is the contract to install the air handlers that we approved, I think 2 sessions ago, for Harney Elementary. Not only are the old air handlers out of date, but this is an upgrade for IAQ, indoor air quality. We actually upsized those air handlers in response to COVID and other reasons. So the recommendation for the contract is to Irish Mechanical for $63,650. And I will take any questions that you might have.
Okay.
I don't know if you can answer this, but Dr. Milliman might be able to. Are we able to use any CARES money for this project since it is improving air quality?
So the plan is, so with Mr. Wallen's recommendation, we're not recommending the alternate here, we're just recommending the base contract. So in answer to your question, yes. ESSER 3 grant is not, the application is not yet open, but we have penciled that in. So at this point in time, because we'd have to apply for it, they'd have to approve it. I'm confident that it will be. But at this time, we would pay for it from the 2018 GEO bond, then apply for it in the grant and reimburse ourselves. Same with the air handlers that we purchased already. My plan is to put that in the ESSER 3 grant, reimburse ourselves back for that. Does that help answer your question?
Yes. Thank you.
Any other questions on that? All right. Thank you. I'd like a motion to approve the contract to install the air handlers at Harney, please. Okay. A second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. And the
Thank
air
you.
conditioning is very nice in here today. Good. It's a good thing. Okay. Item L, if we've ever had an L before. Getting down there today. Consideration of a Fordyce Road right of entry improvement agreement with the city of Lebanon. Dr. Milliman, if you could just introduce that, please, for
Sure,
us. That'd be
sure.
helpful.
We've been talking to the city of Lebanon about some right of entry regarding trail extension, basically from Grant to John Bart Road. This right of entry would be a part of that. We met regarding this as well as some other right-of-way / easement conversation with the city for some other projects that are in relation to a new home development that's being developed by Fisher Homes near Fordyce Road as well. So this kind of can be tied into that as well. Mr. Parks attended the meetings with me. Perhaps he can chime in on some of the discussion as well. So.
Yeah, actually, I mean, this is also road, they're planning to also do road reconstruction, Fordyce. And what I recommended, even by way of email to some, is that I think we table this because this is actually going to become more of a permanent easement, permanent right-of-way. And I even spoke with the city engineer today, and he was okay with that too, that we can do it all together as one motion rather than having to deal with a temporary right of entry. They don't need it right now. Once the actual legal restrictions are figured out and the easement documents can be provided to us, then we can execute it all together, providing them the easements for the drainage, for the Fordyce improvements as well. So I would recommend we table this until Kevin acted like it was actually going to be July's meeting, so table this to the July meeting.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I think it's good to be clear that we're not opposed to the project or working with the city on this. That's not the issue at all. It's just some language and clarifying exactly how the process is going to work. So.
One note I'll say is he didn't expect it to move this quickly once it got to Dr. Millman's hands either. So he's like,
You
I
should
didn't
know
expect
better
it to
than
go
that.
like it. So that's part of the shock there too.
We'll
He
move.
said, so
It's here, we move.
it's good.
We'll move on it. So there you
Absolutely.
go. I suppose that's a good reputation to build.
It's an
that you
excellent reputation.
are staying on top of things. So
Yes.
thank you.
You're welcome. But I will amend my recommendation to
approve this evening, to a recommendation of the board to table this to the July meeting.
Okay. All right, so I would like a motion to table this until our July meeting for further discussion. And
I'll make that motion.
okay, thank you. A second on that?
I'll second that one.
Okay. All those in favor of tabling this item signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you, and thanks for working on that, Craig, and clarifying all those things. Mr. Martin. Look at that. Mr. Martin. Letter M. Overnight trips for high school boys and girls basketball programs for the summer.
3 trips are coming up in June with overnights. 2 of those for girls basketball and 1 for boys varsity basketball. Looks like varsity. So do you have any questions about what you have in front of you?
I do not. We've been given all the details of the trips in our background
Yeah.
notes, which I'm guessing everybody's read through.
Of course, it will all be contingent on their ability and the camp actually taking place.
Yeah.
But it's nice to be entertaining motions like this again.
Yeah, it is, definitely. All right, so we will take those 3 camps as one motion as overnight trips for those sports programs. So I'd like a motion to approve the D1 girls basketball camp, the girls basketball Sugar Creek camp, and the D1 boys basketball camp, please.
Motion.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
All right. Any questions on that, on those trips? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you. Okay, we have several informational items. And I know we have some Central students who've been waiting very patiently. Thank you. So we will start with the Leader in Me presentation.
I'm Casey Anderson, and I teach first grade at Central Elementary. And the amount of time that we have here this evening with you will just touch the tippy top of the Leader in Me iceberg. And to put it boldly, the Leader in Me has changed us completely as a school and our culture. Central is a really great place to be right now, and we're all really proud to be a part of it. Culture is huge. Without a positive culture, it can be impossible to be effective in anything else. When the staff first began our Leader in Me training in the summer of 2017, we learned so much about ourselves just as the staff. We all know that teaching can be tough, but we learned about paradigm shifts, and we embraced the fact that change starts with me. If I'm unhappy, I have the power to change that. If I'm frustrated, I have the power to change that. If I don't like the way my students are acting or treating one another, I have the power to help them change that. And now that we as a staff have collectively embraced these ideas, we have the ability to empower our students to be the change that they want to see in their lives. At Central, we now have a common language that helps us form and maintain a positive culture. Some things that you may hear students and staff saying at Central are, we need to put our big rocks first, and although this isn't what we hoped for, let's choose sunny weather. What are some of our lead measures we can complete in order to meet our WIGs, which are wildly important goals? So having these common ideas and language helps us work all toward the same goal. One of our first endeavors surrounding a culture change was physical environment. 4 years ago, our school was quite drab. Old plaques and photos hung on the walls, and walking the halls did not leave us feeling energized. Our culture team made major changes in our hallways. Our school is now a very vibrant place to be, and the walls speak life and energy into our staff and students each and every day. Although physical environment is important, we all know that culture and environment have more to do with the attitudes of the people, both students and staff. Thankfully, the Leader in Me has helped us put many systems in place that strengthen and maintain our culture. From leadership roles to class mission statements to empowering student voices to be heard, we are very proud of where the Leader in Me has led us. And I'd now like to introduce Diana Shirley, who will talk with you a little bit about how the Leader in Me has helped guide us in the area of academics.
So through our journey with Leader in Me, one of the last areas we were able to focus on was academics. And believe me, for teachers, that was really difficult for us to wait on. We wanted to see the results in our academics immediately, but we were told we must trust the process. So during the 2019 and 2020 school year, we worked really hard and we wrote school-wide and classroom goals, all based on our end of the year data. But because of COVID and e-learning, we didn't find anything out about how our results were going to, or how our results were. So this year we were able to finally see the progress that we as a school are making in academics. We definitely have further to go, but we are making huge gains in raising academic achievement at Central. So this year our school-wide WIG is that 80% of our students would achieve their reading writ goal on NWEA at the end of the year. And from our school-wide goal, we wrote classroom and grade level goals, and then we wrote action steps so that we could achieve our goals. We learned that the action steps are the most important part of the process. This is a step that a lot of us overlook when we're working on our goals. The action steps are the things that have to be done every single day or week consistently. These are the trackable things that will actually help you reach your goals. For example, in 5th grade, my class wanted 100% of us to all meet our goals on NWEA reading. And we decided that if we wanted to improve our reading, we actually had to read more. So as a class, we decided that every day we needed to read for at least 30 minutes and also work on Mind Play, which is a reading program that we use to help students with reading deficits. To encourage us meeting our lead measures, each week we planned many classroom celebrations, and sometimes the celebrations were as simple as dodgeball or lunch in the classroom. So as a school, we didn't quite meet our goal of 80% of our students meeting our writ in reading. However, 69% of our school did meet that goal, which was a 32% gain. Do we have room to improve? Yes, we absolutely do. However, we have a lot to celebrate. After spending a quarter of last year at home e-learning, 80% of our 2nd, 3rd, and 5th graders all met their writ goals on NWEA. I'm pleased that my class, 85% either met or exceeded their writ goal on NWEA reading. And the good news is that we learned that our lead measures were working, and if we work hard and put in the time, we'll do even better next year. I'm confident that we'll continue to develop our wildly important goals at Central, and we'll continue to strive for academic growth and success in our students. Thank you, and Jessica Frederick is going to talk to you about teacher leadership.
Thank you. It's good to see you guys. I know I have had a lot of your kids, so that's exciting. I'm going to tell about the teacher leadership part of what the 7 habits are for us. And we all started 4 years ago, and we said the change needs to start with me. But we've also come and evolved this 4 years to the change has to start with us now. Like we're a team, and that's the biggest gain we've had at Central. Sorry, I might get a little emotional because I'm so proud of us. But our goal is just to develop the positive culture at Central and to make student leaders and staff leadership. The way that works is we have our principals and our Lighthouse coordinators. They go to coaching days and they find out what goals we need to work on that year. And they come back and they're like, okay, this is what we're going to work on. This is how we go and we progress. The teachers then pick one of 3 action teams that they're passionate on. And it's either leadership, culture, or academics. And within these teams, that's where you see the teachers get the lead. We decide on our project, we set our goals, we make a timeline, we train the students, we train the teachers, and then after that we get to implement it finally. But the greatest part is the end. We reflect and we get to see, did we meet our vision, or do we have the students actually leading? And this year, we finally get to see that the kids have taken it themselves and they are leaders. So it's working, and we're very proud of that. And these action teams will keep evolving each year. This year we had 4 big teams, but then we separated it into 8. So I just can't wait to see what positive things come next year when we're more normal and we have even more positive experiences. Thanks. Here is Kim for our student leadership.
Thanks for having us here tonight. It's funny, we talk about, we all wrote our speeches separately, and we all talked about change, and that's exactly how I wanted to begin this evening, is that change starts with me, and at Central, change starts with us. A tough paradigm shift is happening at Central. As teachers, we are geared to lead, to inspire, and to take charge and get kids going. The Leader in Me program encourages teachers to go at this a little bit differently. It encourages us to let them lead you. I, for one, am a teacher who has ideas, and I love to make them come to life. What we've learned, is that if we let them lead, they will soar. A bit of the if you build it, they will come mentality. Over the last 4 years, we have let them lead, and lead us they do. We have 4th and 5th grade students planning, writing, and directing our leadership day. They identified the goals, they write the agenda, plan the meetings, execute the objectives seamlessly, and create leadership events that show us how truly wonderful our kids are. I could not be more inspired by the work done by our Central students. One of the most amazing transformations at Central has been the conversion of the Central Student Council to the Central Student Lighthouse team. We have roughly 40 kids who interviewed to be a part of the team that leads our students' student encouragement, academic celebrations, and philanthropic endeavors. Our students want to share with each other, and they want to help our community. They've created systems to honor each other with the 7 Habits Awards, encourage each other with random acts of kindness, and inspire each other with community outreach. For example, this year when the fall holiday season approached, Leighton Batts, a 1st grade student in Mrs. Mitchell's class, shared that she'd like to have a food drive for Thanksgiving. Leighton's idea and vision, Habit 2 in Action, sparked the help and support of her Central classmates. The Shalom House received a generous donation of food as Leighton's vision became a reality. Our Veterans Program Action Team decided that COVID was not going to stop them from honoring our veterans. The student group chose to have an outdoor parade and asked each class to make posters and share with our veterans as they drove through. Our Recess Equipment Action Team also has been working diligently to keep our recess supplies organized and neat for each zone. Some of these students meet weekly before school to work on the equipment, and others help during the day after recess, after all the recesses are complete. This is just another example of students taking charge of things that matter to them. We're also proud of a new action team called the Sunshine Squad. They work to spread joy around the building and ignite this in our entire student body. Without a question, our students are working hard to continue on their mission. It's clear to see that our students take pride in this school and in their community. We are beyond blessed to call them ours, to call them Tigers. I have 2 Tigers here with us today that are a part of a couple of these different teams and have just grown so much over the last 4 years. They're 5th graders who have been a part of the Leader in Me for the last 4 years with us. So they would like to share their story with you as well.
Hi, I'm Lucas, and I'm a 5th grader here at Central, and today I'm going to talk to you about how the Leader in Me has impacted my life. This year I've been given many opportunities to use the Leader in Me to help our school. One opportunity I was given was I got to help out with the Student Lighthouse Action Team. Alexis, Caroline, Madison, and I took over the Sunshine Spreaders Action Team made up of 1st through 5th graders. In that team we got to use Habit 6, Synergize, to spread sunshine all over the school. Some of my favorites were putting positive sticky notes on the bathroom mirrors, creating a school-wide scavenger hunt, and giving the bus drivers a goodie bag. I know that the Leader in Me has had a big impact on my life because I've done plenty of things I probably wouldn't have done if I didn't learn about the Leader in Me program. The summer between my 3rd and 4th grade year, my dad got married. At the wedding reception, I surprised everyone there by giving a speech about how much my dad means to me. I also talked about how awesome my dad's new wife is at helping us all out, and I was glad to get a couple more brothers. I was really nervous to speak in front of a microphone in front of 150 people, but my confidence has grown from learning the 7 habits here at Central. During my 3rd grade year, I designed a project that encourages kids like me to be kind. After reading a book called Try a Little Kindness, I got an idea to encourage others to be kind to everyone. I drew out a plan which I showed to our librarian, who shared it with our assistant and our principal, and they loved it. Because of this idea, there is now a display in our school library of examples my friends and I wrote to remind others to be kind. The leader in me has not only affected me at school, it has gone way beyond. I really enjoy playing baseball, even though I never really liked being the center of attention. At one of my practices, my coach noticed that I was a decent pitcher and wanted me to try it out. Even though I was nervous, I gave it a shot. Turns out, this is one of my strengths, and I wouldn't have known it had I not had the confidence to try. All of the little moments help me find my voice and share my strengths. Now I pitch at some of my games and enjoy it. I want all kids to know that anyone can lead. All you need is a plan. Without the leader in me, I probably wouldn't have accomplished half of these. The most valuable piece of this is the confidence I have gained. It is all the little pieces of leader in me, paradigm shifts, big rocks, and goal setting that made me who I am today.
Hello everyone, my name is Alexis and I am almost an elementary school graduate. My vision of who I am and my purpose has changed dramatically after 6 years at Central Elementary. The person I am now is someone who I could have never imagined before I was introduced to the leader in me. I feel more determined than ever to make my mark on this earth a powerful one. Without the support of my family and the 7 habits, the mindset I have is something that I can be proud of. For me, it all started with a cheerleader, a person who pushed you, motivated you, and most importantly, someone who listened. That doesn't always have to be one supporter, and in my case, I had one everywhere. My parents didn't want me to be hidden inside of a sweatshirt all my life, so we worked together to build my confidence. I never wanted to stand out or talk to strangers, so before school I would wait for the bus at a friend's house and would have to start a conversation with who was ever there to watch me. That was huge for me. It took me until 2nd grade, but I was way more comfortable talking to adults. At home, me and my dad would go on neighborhood walks, which helped me unwind and start fresh the next day. I learned that it's better to talk about it rather than have something keeping you from doing your best. When I have a part of my day like that to look forward to, it comes in handy. School for me wasn't easy, so when I found Mrs. Frederick, a whole new world of possibilities was opened up to me. She helped me discover my love for writing, and that was my happy place that expressed all of my talents. I felt that I wanted to share my journey finding my voice, so I spoke at Central's very first Leadership Day. That started my vision for a whole new life as a bigger person than before. I learned to become more independent by finding my cheerleaders, my voice, and becoming myself with a grand plan for who I wanted to become. The things I have learned over the years have made me use the 7 habits to be able to become who I am today. Without a doubt, I believe that all kids should get a chance to experience the leader in me. The life skills that I've learned at school are skills that will stick with me forever. It's helped our school become more welcoming and colorful. When kids get excited about coming to school, it's easier to make friends. When we became a Leader in Me school, immediately the classrooms changed. We worked together to create a mission statement for our class, making a clear description of what we wanted to accomplish in 180 days. We set goals for what we wanted to reach in our schoolwork by the end of the year. It's so much easier to work with a group of people who clearly know our end in mind. At school, as a school, we work together leading leadership events. Everyone gets a chance to show their leadership and help each other grow with the 7 habits. It helped me feel like I play a bigger part in helping our school become the best it can possibly be. Everyone at Central gets to learn something new about leadership. A little thing I learned one day is that sometimes when we tell someone we're struggling with something like a leadership role or a job, we don't want our problem to be fixed. We want someone to listen, and when we are doing the listening, we need to let that person learn on their own. Sometimes all we need is to have someone feel what we're feeling, and we should also learn to become empathetic listeners back. Through the Leader in Me, every student at Central has learned a great deal of new skills to help us become more successful people. Next year, when I start 6th grade, there's no doubt that I will bring the 7 habits with me, let alone everywhere life takes me. Through Central, I've learned that we all have to find who we are, and it's never easy. The person who used to be too afraid to spread their wings has now become a big, beautiful butterfly, and that's all because of the Leader in Me. My classmates and I will take our leadership journeys with us forever and keep learning each and every day.
Thank you so much.
That is unbelievable. I remember my son standing right here the first year Leader in Me was even introduced, presenting it to the school board that year in 2017. So thank you for bringing it. I also remember Lexus sitting on my couch, being afraid to say a word. I tried to get anything out of her, and she would just look away, right? So it is amazing to see that growth, and you will go far. Thank you.
That is going to be a very tough act to follow. But I am here tonight to talk about our 2021-22 reentry plan and our use of the Sr3 funds. Thank you. So we plan on reopening in August for the 2021-22 school year in Phase 6. This past year, we have been implementing a phased approach to learning that allows us to either ramp up or dial back as needed. And we have been most of the year, fortunately, in Phase 5 in most grades and schools. But we plan to open in Phase 6. The big difference there is that there is no remote option, so all of our students will be back in person and all of our instruction will be done in person. So we look forward to being able to do that. Some of the precautions that we have taken in order to prepare for this year as well as next year with that full return is plexiglass installed like you see here tonight, but also in offices and in points of sale. UVC light source sanitizing devices, additional air filtration, custodial staff training, hand sanitizing stations, bottle filling stations for water bottles, and then a daily screener for parents and staff as they attend school each day. There is not anything new there. Those are all procedures that we have been implementing over the past year and plan to continue to do. Some things that we will be reviewing our current practices on and then possibly adjusting as needed will be our current operation for meal service, transportation, recess, passing periods, and visitors and volunteers. So we will look for more information and make any adjustments that we can and need to do. And then when it comes to things such as contact tracing, isolation and quarantine for exposure, face masks, and vaccination opportunities, we will continue to collaborate with the local and state health officials to follow CDC guidelines and continue our best practices in those areas. Yes. Does anyone have any questions so far? So that is our reentry plan and what we plan to do in preparation for the upcoming school year. We are also going to share tonight our plan for the Sr3 funding. We've kind of touched on that a little bit tonight, but this is a breakdown of how we hope to spend that. So the Sr3 is a federal fund. It stands for Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Funds. And those are allocated to schools to assist with operating in this pandemic through the 2023-24 school year. The funds are being provided, again, due to the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. In order for schools to receive this funding, the plan for the expenditures has to be made public and made available for comment from stakeholders, including students, staff, parents, and the public.
This plan, so this entire slideshow that I have here tonight, as well as a forum for providing that feedback, is now available on our website. So starting tonight, people can go there to find that and then to provide their feedback. If anyone has any questions, I invite them to email me. And again, my email is with this plan as well. So 82% of our ESSER3 expenditures will be used to address evidence-based, or be used for evidence-based activities to address learning loss. These include things such as after-school tutoring, class size reduction and remediation. You'll see the addition of several positions there, all through the 2024 school year. And if they've been added for next year, you can see that some of those have been already started to be paid out of ESSER2. Special education, class size reduction and remediation at the middle school, class size reduction and remediation at the high school, and then transportation for summer school, jump start, and after school tutoring. Any question on that 82%?
Quick question.
Yes.
On the transportation, it says after school tutoring. Why is that 23, 24 and not more sooner?
Mr. Tate, I'm going to defer to you.
ESSER2 is paying for this year and the following year, and then ESSER3, we can use those funds for both.
So I'll update that to make that clear. Thank you. Another 10% of those funds will be used for cleaning, sanitation, and classroom environment. So things like student desks and seating, water bottle filling stations, cleaning equipment, and supplies. Any questions on that 10%?
Dr. Milliman, are we using I assume we're still using the UV things that we
Yes.
purchased, and those will continue to be used?
In hotspot areas, we will continue to target that. I don't think we're using it on a routine basis.
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
They're rotating them through the buildings that they're in
Okay.
now, and then if there is a concentrated area, then they concentrate on that area that evening, but otherwise it's just rotated through the building.
Okay, thank you.
The conditioning room here at the high school, that's done every night, I believe.
Okay.
When wrestling was going on, it was one of them was in the wrestling room. So
Okay.
Nightly. Correct. Yep.
That equipment was originally purchased with hopes of being reimbursed through FEMA. It was not, so I put that in the ESSER2 plan to be reimbursed for that.
Okay.
To get that funds back for the school.
And then finally, the remaining 8% for air quality. We touched on this a little earlier in the meeting, but the replacement of the air handling units at Harney Elementary. So altogether, that makes up the completion of the ESSER3 funds. Again, if you go to leb.k12.in.us/COVID-19, this reentry plan, this full presentation, and then a document or a link to submit feedback is there and available for you, and we would appreciate anyone here as well. So, yes, any other questions?
I do have.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tiffany.
Have we, or when can we expect guidance from the county health department for reopening and some of the items that were mentioned?
Yeah. The state health department actually will issue guidance for reopening. They have a weekly webinar that's targeted to school medical nurses, and Mr. Martin gets the privilege of tuning into each of those weekly as well. They have signaled recently that they will provide guidance in July. I think they're trying to push that as late as they can, knowing what the situation may be at that time. I'm hopeful we might get the guidance sooner than that. And then our health department, Boone County Health Department, will review those recommendations. It's hard to predict what that guidance may be, and how much the local transmission, the local data may be allowed to be considered, or whether it's a statewide recommendation. So it's hard to predict how that guidance will come out. We will also assess if there was one more bullet to talk about in this reopening plan. It would be our classroom guidelines, because we've restricted several several things in our classrooms about items on surfaces and things like that, bulletin boards, things on walls, things of that nature. So we don't want to trickle out guidance. We'd like to know what the state health department's guidance is first, and then have a conversation about how that will impact the classroom guidelines. So I'd like to do it earlier, but it's probably going to be July, and then we'll get the information out to our teachers and principals as soon as we have some direction from the health department. It's a very vague answer, but right now that's the best we can do.
Thank you.
And then I don't know who can answer this, but since we're looking at the air quality in Harney, I assume we've done that to all of our schools and it's okay other places, or do we have plans to start replacing all the air, I don't even know what an air handler is,
Yeah.
but
We
vents, I assume?
We measure the volume of air that's moved and of course the quality as well.
Mhm.
We did install ASHRA, which is an acronym that I can't even begin to, I know the word engineer is in there. But they're approved, they're approved COVID-19 approved air filtration. We did replace those in every building that is possible to do so.
Okay.
And we just, as Jim Walling pointed out, Harney is a school that had some of the biggest issues about moving the air and the volume that we want it to. I don't know what else you might want to add to that.
No, that's correct. I mean, you've seen the reports from Gibraltar of the amazing shape our buildings are in. So, yes, Harney's the air handlers were aged, not bringing in the fresh air that we had hoped because of their age. So that's the reason we replaced those. But there really isn't a need in the other buildings at this time for the same type of equipment because we've just kept up on things
Great.
through the years.
Very cool.
That's a plus and a minus because now we can take those funds and
Use them.
concentrate them on student
Somewhere
learning.
else.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have a presentation from Baker Tilley Financial Advisors. Thank you, Central Group.
Thank you for your patience, Bellevue. That was fun though, wasn't it? Right?
Yeah, it was. I have a 5th grader who's getting ready to graduate also. And she's also at a Leader in Me school in Carmel.
Nice.
And so it was cool just hearing the students, and I've seen a lot of growth in her. It's been their K through 12 or K through 5, so
Wonderful.
it's nice to see. Good to see all of you this evening. My name is Belvia Gray. I'm with Baker Tilley Municipal Advisors, and we've been working with the school corporation for a really long time. And so, a couple of years, kind of. I know. I just celebrated my 16th anniversary, so I've been working for a long time here. Tonight, I am going to give a little bit of history on the school corporation's current outstanding capital referendum, and then talk through some of the different options the school has. You'll be hearing from Gibraltar later this evening on the feasibility and all of the different projects the school is looking at undertaking. And so this hopefully will help you frame some of that discussion once you start putting numbers to each of those projects and helping you think about, prioritize all the different projects that you'll want to get completed. All right, so a little bit of history. Back in November 2010, the school corporation had a successful capital referendum for $40 million. And the school issued bonds for that amount back in 2011. At the time that the bonds were approved, the anticipated tax impact at that point in time was a maximum rate of 66 cents. And that was based on an assessed valuation of about $1 billion. The bonds were refunded into 2017. Fast forward to 2021, the outstanding tax rate for your referendum bonds is in the around 30 cents right now, and your assessed valuation is $2.2 billion. And so, you can see the relationship between what we were thinking about, back in 2010 versus, the huge amount of growth that's been occurring within the community and how that's also translated into the tax rate that that you're currently paying for those outstanding capital bonds. Those bonds, when they were issued, were set to be repaid over 12 years. So the last year of repayment on those bonds is 2023, which makes this discussion, certainly around any sort of debt that will be approved by referendum, very timely. If you're looking at bringing on additional debt and looking at, managing that exempt rate, and by exempt I mean any debt that's approved by referendum. I'll talk about exempt and non-exempt. Non-exempt is your debt that is within your tax cap limitation, and so that has there are different limiters for that fund. So in thinking about, once you hear from Gibraltar this evening, thinking about all the different projects that you have available to complete, thinking about, what's that strategy going to be for long-term versus short-term types of borrowing, and creating a plan around that. So there will be monies that you're going to pay for potentially out of a capital referendum. There will be projects that you're going to fund potentially out of the out of your non-exempt or tax cap controlled fund. And then you'll also use probably a mixture of first mortgage bonds and general obligation bonds, of which the school has both types of bonds outstanding. And really the major difference is there are different legal steps required depending on which mechanism is used, but both are used by Indiana schools, widely used by Indiana schools. And this school corporation has tended to use its general obligation borrowing capacity for smaller projects, and we have tended to repay those very, very quickly and have been utilizing them also as a way to help the school corporation manage its overall tax rate. Obviously there are projects, but in terms of the repayment term, we've been matching that with the growth that the school corporation's been experiencing. So the main message is, you're going to have a lot of flexibility in terms of which buckets you'll look at paying for these different projects out of. And we'll work hand in hand with Gibraltar and with the attorneys who are involved to help the school in thinking about which projects maybe make most sense to pay out of those different types of funding sources. I'm going to pause there. Any questions on that piece? Okay. All right.
She has one.
Oh, yes.
No, I'm just thinking.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll have one later.
That's totally fine. Yeah, that's totally fine. So it's going to be kind of small to see on the screen, but what we put together for you to look at this evening is what we're calling kind of a project capacity, and we're looking at both 10 and 15 years. And we looked at debt that could be issued through a referendum in the exempt fund, or debt that could be issued under the tax caps. And that non-exempt amount would be a combination of not only maybe some of those needs that are identified through the plan that, the work that Gibraltar has done, but also some of those ongoing needs that we've been helping the school issue general obligation bonds for on a annual, semi-annual type basis. Some of the things to keep in mind, right now the school corporation, I mentioned your exempt debt, the tax rate is about 30 cents. And so when we put together these capacity calculations, we looked at carving out 15 cents of that for a potential operating referendum if the school corporation goes that route. And then looked at how much could the school corporation essentially generate or issue in debt with a 20-cent tax rate. So that would result in an increase over the current rate of 30 cents, about 4.14 cents or so. But we also know, because of the amount of assessed valuation growth, the likelihood, that could all get wiped away in a year. But the thing that the board will need to keep in mind when we are approving, if you move forward and there's any sort of debt that's approved, is that the way that approval will occur is that we can't take into account any assessed valuation growth, anticipated assessed valuation growth. So what will happen is the 20 cents or whatever you determine you want that rate to be will be established based upon the most recent assessed value at the time those authorizations occur. So what will happen is the tax rate, you know, when the bonds get sold, you'll establish a payment at the time that they're issued. And if your assessed valuation keeps growing with that same payment, your tax rate's going to decline. So that example, you know, what happened to you in real life from the 2010 referendum, we imagined it might be up to 66 cents. You're actually paying 30 cents now. So I would envision that that same scenario will likely occur. I don't know how much it would necessarily decline from where it is currently, but that's a very, you know, real possibility given the assessed value and the amount of growth that's occurring currently in Lebanon. So the way that we would look at kind of managing that, or if you have additional needs beyond, you know, what you would approve through a capital referendum borrowing, we'd be looking at your non-exempt debt fund and looking at a total tax rate of like right around $1 or so range. And so for a 10-year borrowing, we're currently looking at being able to generate about a little under $40.5 million within a capital referendum, and through your non-exempt fund, about $47.6 million. So that would give you roughly $88 million to look at different sorts of projects, and that would be over a 10-year time frame. And that's roughly, you know, what the school looked at doing a little over 10 years ago. You ended up paying it over 12 years, but you know, that was looking at kind of addressing needs over the next decade or so. So that would kind of coincide with that if that's what the board wants to do. We also looked at what would capacity be if you looked at 15-year capacity. And so that would then, for a 20-cent capital referendum, would then provide potentially authorization up to about $58.3 million, with the non-exempt going up to about $65 million. So that could get you roughly $124 million. There's some conservatism built into this. We did build in some assessed value growth on the non-exempt side, because we will be able to have a little more flexibility with the non-exempt borrowings, and that will also give the school corporation a chance to kind of have that mix of long-term and short-term types of borrowing to address larger scale projects, but also look at projects that you want to accomplish and then get those repaid very quickly. Mm-hmm. And you'll really have the ability to do that given the assessed value growth. And just, I mean, you have over $2 billion of assessed value, so that's already going to give you a lot of buying power, I guess. You're going to be able to repay debt very quickly, you know, and you're able to accomplish quite a lot, you know, between 10 and 15 years of borrowing. So my main message is you have a lot of flexibility, and so these are really just our first attempts of what things might look like. Once, you know, the folks at Gibraltar, once we start getting more numbers put with the priorities that the school has identified, then we'll come back and we'll clean up our numbers and get them more firm and tied more closely to the projects that may become part of a capital and a non-capital type of project borrowing.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's necessarily directed to you,
Sure.
maybe Dr. Milliman or Mr. Tate, but so could you please explain the difference between the exempt and the non-exempt, where those funds come from, and then maybe the impact to the community on those differences?
Do you want to start, Charles?
So with the referendum, if that's passed, that becomes exempt debt. So with that, all the TIF districts, that assessed value now feeds into, they have to pay the taxes on what was approved by the referendum. If the referendum's not passed, you still can go another avenue and do projects and so forth, but then the TIF districts are exempt from that. So when they are exempt from that, then that means the homeowners the property owners are gonna pay a higher tax rate to generate the same type of levy. So it's advantageous to do a referendum and get a referendum passed, because you can generate more revenue and it doesn't hit the homeowners as significantly.
Very good. Thank you for explaining.
Is that?
No, that's
okay.
exactly what I was, yep. Thank you.
And any of that, and also any of that debt that would be not approved by referendum, to the extent a taxpayer's already at the tax caps, anything over and above that, their tax bill, for that portion of their tax bill, would not change. The exempt portion is outside of that calculation.
So, I don't know if I had the opportunity to explain circuit breakers with you, but that's what she's talking about in that. So you take a homeowner here in Lebanon, their combined tax rates, which is city, library, county, school, all that, if they hit that 1% of their assessed value, the home value, they don't have to pay any more than that. Even though the state's approved for that levy, they go, no, I'm not. So then all those entities that were taxing that house, that property, will not receive their full levy. That's significantly impacted a lot of school corporations that had a lot of growth over these past few years, and they were building buildings, millions of dollars in debt, and this circuit breaker of 1%, 2%, and 3% was implemented while they're involved in this significant debt. Impacts their funding significantly. It does not impact us.
So it's definitely something to ensure that we capture the tax revenue from the TIFs to be able to help with the.
And because you already have a capital referendum outstanding, the messaging to the public, is different than someone who's looking at establishing a brand new capital referendum. Folks are already, accustomed to paying at whatever the level that they're paying, and so the communication efforts toward the public is just going to be a little bit different too. Any other questions for me? I'm sure you'll be hearing more from me. I'm sure.
I'll have more questions.
And we'll be asking more questions.
Yeah.
I would add with the tax cap, the circuit breaker, all the taxing entities they won't get the levy, so they take the loss. That's a proportional loss. And so since we are the largest part of the tax bill, we take our proportionate hit. So if a school district is 60% of a community's property tax bill, we take 60% of the hit. And that will come from the operations fund. And that's what we use to keep our buildings in the shape that Charles was talking about. So that's another advantage of taking a look at, asking the community to continue what's already in place, because now you're flirting with the circuit breakers, and then that can impact our ability to maintain facilities.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. Thanks for your patience.
All right, Gibraltar Design, Facility Assessment and Feasibility Study.
We even have a clicker for you, Jim, so if you want it.
Works out just fine. So what I'd like to do this evening, members of the board, is first of all, it's nice to see everyone. Wonderful to see all the accolades for your students. It's kind of indicative of this statement right here and what we're all about, making sure that your school district and your school board can provide the very best learning environments for your students. This is just a overview, recap, if you will, of some of the things that have been accomplished recently. And Dr. Millman, you're welcome to chime in, or Mr. Tate. And I don't intend to go through this in a great amount of detail, but please interrupt me if there's something you'd like me to expand upon. I think probably the most important thing would be that there's more to follow. We're going to be going through over the next couple of months additional iterations of this process of feasibility study. I think what I would say is generally when you go through that process repeatedly, answers start to reveal themselves. This is the best direction to go. These are the things that are going to be most important to the school facilities themselves for instructional purposes. And those types of things, I think, will allow us to come to a conclusion preliminarily as to the direction to go. From that, and let's say that's a June update for you as a school board, then we'll be ready in July to begin the process of budgeting. Because we all live within the reality of the dollars and cents, as Baker Tilley and Belvia described to you. So we need to then measure what we want to do against what's within your means that you all would decide. And I think that then positions you very well for August summary with Gibraltar Design's help, some other partners. So then you can begin the additional effort, planning and communicating to your community. So let me just kind of briefly go through what we have. Hopefully this presentation as well, one of the things we find, in fact we just had a successful completion of an endeavor such as this after a project hearing 2 months ago, is that these types of presentations, the way we try to put them together is so that the information is easily digested, not only by you as a board, but also your constituency. I think when you're transparent, like you are, and you want people to be able to understand, the dialogue is better, and it just makes the whole path easier. And my compliments to Dr. Millman and anyone that was involved in the stakeholder group meetings. Just an outstanding endeavor. I've, for 30 years, watched these happen all over the state of Indiana, and what you had to go through with COVID and some of the interruptions, it was still very smooth, on point, and I think started some momentum from what I could tell. So my compliments to that. And we were a part of this and presented this at your most recent stakeholder meeting, as Dr. Millman probably mentioned to you. So let's just keep going. So this is just something to indicate that for anyone that we're aware of growth and where the students might be coming from. And just some data, knowing where you're at presently in terms of building capacities and square footages and years that they're built. Some of this information you saw summarized in a different manner in previous reports. So this is here in this presentation for you. These next couple of slides come from a building program, more specifically an elementary learning program that your principals helped us develop. It was a means by which we could indicate this is what Lebanon Community Schools wants to be for elementary learning. This is how instruction can be, these are the types of spaces that instruction needs across all the elementary schools. In summary, think equal, not same, or equal but not identical. Each building has a different feel and a different configuration, but we can still, using the building program we created, measure the feasibility study solutions and some of these diagrams you're going to see, and say, will these solutions get us to the programming and instructional purposes that are the real outcomes, such as I said in the beginning, but most importantly, what we're out for. So this just kind of recaps. On the left side, if you walked into a room and just looked, you would see maybe some of the learning from the leader, the teacher, instructor, and then on the right side come a bullet point list of what elementary learning might look like if you observed it for the little learners. And then this is just a recap of the booklet I referred to as the program document, and it's just a summary of the criteria. So these, think of these as maybe the headings of, these are the most important aspects of an elementary building so it can support the learning that you want to have happen. Some of the buildings are doing pretty well in some of these areas. Some need help to make the environment better in these areas. The end goal is so that when you're done with this endeavor for the next 20 years, you have elementary schools that are equitable in terms of opportunities for students, and the teachers, you know, the rooms are just like the marker board or the iPad. It's a tool for the instructor and the teachers to use. That's what the room is and what the building is. These are aspects of the feasibility study, and this presentation in particular simply is about the elementary and how we were looking at those. But these other items that you see on the study are also being developed and will continue to be looked at. So we'll just really quickly go through the options of 3 elementaries and 4 elementaries for the district, just so you can see what was talked about at the stakeholder meeting, and anybody else they're going to watch this or see this later can have this opportunity. So with 3 elementary schools, 2,100 students capacity, which is from the demographer and some of that information that's been developed. roughly divide by 3, so roughly 700 students per building. The 3 buildings that we looked at need to be significantly larger in order to have that operational capacity that you would want. How we get there looks different at each building, but at the end, it's all measured against that program. Blue on the screen is new building addition, expanded building space. Darker orange is more intensely renovated or more intensely repurposed, and then the light colored spaces are simply maybe just reorganizing the building with room assignments, or you're using it for the same purpose. So you can see at Harney how expansion would be needed, where that might happen. Don't think of these as actually final floor plans, just think of it as a way to say, do I think this is something that's reasonable, feasible? Do I want it to go in this direction as a school board, or we look at it as school planners and say, what is this doing for us? I won't read the bullet points on the right, but it's sort of an inventory of things that need to happen when we look at this. One of the things about Harney, it's probably one of the more site-sensitive solutions that we had to think about. So when we expanded the building, we were processing, gee, what might happen with traffic? What might happen with buses? How might that look? And then with Stokes, probably many in the community still think of it as the new elementary school, which is fine. It looks great. Mr. Tate and Mr. Walling and your team, you all keep great care of all your school building assets across the district. But it's still 17, going on 20 years old, so there's some things we need to do. But from a school planning standpoint, my point tonight would be to say that the configuration of the building plan lends itself to how we could expand this building. I'm not saying that you'd want to, but it's less, it's very organized when and you can see what we've done is simply created a loop for the building with additional blue at the bottom of the screen for addition. All of the schools, there are some consistent themes. One of them that this illustration shows you see the blue box at the top. The main offices of schools that we had 15 years ago, even 10 years ago, today they look entirely different. There's so many more services that Lebanon Schools wants to provide the children and the parents, but also any district in Indiana. And so it's you're not alone in needing to expand main offices to have more support with guidance or social services or any of those types of things that generally are delivered through an elementary's main office. Site plan, in this case, we just felt like we'd want to be examining maybe parking and traffic flow, but not nearly to the extent that would happen if we have 3 schools in the district in terms of what would happen in Harney. And then Perryworth, we're still working on this. We're going to earn our money for you when we think through Perryworth, partly because the building has probably one of the more unusual configurations, right? It was designed and built at a time when we thought, well, there'll only be 4 classrooms at each grade level. So we'll do 4 third grade, 4 fourth grade, and building principals and anybody that's lived in elementary, it's not always that exact. And it definitely won't be that exact at Perryworth because you have a dynamic community area that Perryworth serves. The other thing we know about Perryworth is there's going to be a more significant building addition to get its capacity to the right size. And then that probably involves even thinking through things like air conditioning, chillers, boilers, and all of that. So that's a little bit of an indication of Perryworth, though, at that 3-school solution, number of classrooms that need to be added. We do think, like, towards the front of the building, more specifically, that's probably lending itself to kindergarten, preschool program, those types of things near the main office. And then as we go to the top of the illustration is where we'd add on more classrooms. And then what you do is you simply reorganize the building with grade levels. So typically, in most elementaries, the classrooms sort of matriculate from the lower grades on around the building until it gets to the upper grade level. Again, I don't mean to go too fast. You can interrupt me if you want. You're going to see these again in June with further development and further understanding. But just to keep going with the site, probably the main thing to understand is we need to get cars off the street. So you can see at the illustration on the top side of the building, north side of the building, we'd use the parking lot to create parking queues for parents that are waiting to, say, line up and pick up their children after school. So that's how we looked at Perryworth. Okay, so I just went through what 3 schools in the district might look like. I want to make a couple points before we look at what 4 schools might look like. A couple things about 3 schools. When you have 3 schools, your operational capacity, whether it's 680 at one school, 720 at another, but I said roughly 700. If you ended up having 2,100 students for the next decade, you'll be right at capacity. You won't really have much room for flexibility. The other thing that Dr. Millman, any building principal could tell you is it's not always an exact fit. So when you have like 3 schools, everything has to fit perfectly, including the number of students that are coming to each school. So you can very easily, if you needed 750 or 780 at one school, you could very easily with 3 schools have less room to maneuver, because you've sort of, it's like having a school building with no flexible classrooms in it, and you're trying to assign courses, and then it gets difficult. Some of you may have gone to universities where you found yourself walking all the way across campus to a building that you're like, I'm in this college, why am I walking to this other classroom across campus? Well, because they ran out of room in the original building. Same thing can happen with 3 schools in district. So that lends itself to say, what would 4 schools do for Lebanon? Thinking forward, what does our future hold? So to go through all of this again, you'll see less blue, you'll see less classroom addition, you'll still see some common themes like main offices needing to be expanded, reinventing the media center for a hub of learning, preschool, all these different dynamics. So I think it also lends itself to maybe traffic, thoughts of traffic, particularly as we look at Harney, and you can see less building addition. Some things are similar to 4 schools, but when we back up and look at the site, maybe with less building addition, less population, there's some more amenable solutions to minor modifications to manage the traffic and things. And by the way, I would park things like traffic flow and that type of perspective as we're spending X millions. Surely we can do a little better with fill in the blank adjustment to the building. And as board members, that's many times what people say. Well, I don't care about what you do all over the district, but can you just fix this one thing for me? So we've collected all that, as you saw us do that over the last 2 years, and those are the things we're paying attention to when we put this together for you. At Stokes, I think maybe we might want to add a couple more classrooms just to give Stokes and its whatever its end result of where the students come from, having a little bit of flexibility for programming. I think that would be important. We still think, again, some things at the main entry. One of the things we do like about Stokes, though, it has a great gym, cafeteria, stage configuration. It's very nice for the community, so I like some of the aspects that Stokes has for you. And we really don't think with 4 elementary schools in the district, with 4 schools, you probably wouldn't have to do much in relation to the site, parking and those types of things. You may administrate how cars come on and off the site differently for drop-off and so forth, but we don't know that you'd have to add any capital improvement to the site. So then Perryworth, this is an expansion of Perryworth, and it's just a different look in terms of how we might do it. There still is more blue, more classroom addition at Perryworth than the other schools with a 4-school solution for the district. But we still think the early learning could happen towards the front of the building, kindergarten, add the classrooms. We'd like to see, and something we're kind of looking at right now is could we connect somehow the pods of the building, something in between what you saw with 3 schools and this 4-school solution. Although this may end up being the best type of solution. Relative to the site, same dynamic. We need to get the cars off the site regardless of whether there's 4 schools in the district or 3 schools in the district. Perryworth is in a location where that needs to be addressed. And so we like this parking lot solution. There's some other ways we could get cars off the streets and onto the site, but I think this one is the best place to start that conversation. And then when we think about 4 schools in the district, and we are going to talk about Central Elementary here in a moment, But with 4 schools in the district, we think that inserting a new elementary school for your district would offer some advantages. Biggest advantages would be this. When you build a new school, of course, we can create a configuration and everything is dialed in to your exacting specifications. So there's no, there shouldn't be any reason to compromise. Whereas existing buildings, there are gonna be some things that just can't quite be ideal. The other thing you can do is master plan for a capacity that may or may not be needed. So you right size it for what you think you anticipate, but if it's not perfect, you've master planned for additional capacity. Many boards like yourselves in growing communities really like that reason first and foremost is they have a building in their inventory, if you will, that could be expanded later for the what if. What if we have 150 more kids than we thought we would have? And then some other things we can do, because if the building does get to be 750 students, we get a lot of questions about, oh, will the kids get lost in the school, or how will that work? Actually works out great. We've done several schools, and at a different day I could bring Chris Kingery, our elementary ed consultant, and he can tell you he has a school of 820 similar to this configuration, and he loves it. Because see the orange, think of those as like houses. So you might have the lower grade level, the middle grade levels, and the upper grade levels of the elementary. And so the teachers work like in a community, and you heard some of these teachers talk about their collaboration and things. So that really happens in the schools. You can put the media center in a great place. And then you can see on the right-hand side of this illustration, if this were a direction we went with a new school, where like the gym, cafeteria, and things could be at one end of the building. So if you wanted to use it in the evenings for community, those types of things, it can all work. And then of course, when you have a site, you can do anything you need to the site to plan it properly for traffic flow and parking and buses and all those things. So a 4-school solution for the district would be inserting a new school. Liz, I think you heard this presentation as well. Is there anything you'd like me to go back and talk about before I keep going?
No, I think you've covered everything well. Thank
Excellent.
you.
So let's just kind of keep going. So let's talk a little bit about Central. In fact, if you don't mind, I'm going to go to the site first. So one of the things about Central, location, location, location. But I would say in this case with the location, the property boundaries are constricting. Basically, it's kind of hard to see, but if you went north or south, you're going to be up against property lines. So it's really difficult to take a building that needs help in terms of facility expansion and movement of spaces and be constricted on 2 sides. And then the right side of the drawing, there's an alley drive, and then there's a park. It's a nice amenity, so we don't want to do too much to disrupt that. And then on the left side, you have whatever parking you could muster up on the campus. So the thought being that it's still a good facility because it's been so well maintained. So we just made a list on the right-hand side of all these different thoughts we had of, well, what if it was repurposed as an asset for the district? Could it be a central location for preschool? Could it be a place where new members of the community, because you're growing, could go and all the things they need to know about the district could be in that building? Oh, if you're interested in preschool, you should go over here. And then if you need some speech therapy, go to this place. You could do those services through here. You could also partner with InWell and other things going on in the community. And healthcare networks might have an interest in satelliting something that would be beneficial for your students. Always looking for staff training. You have a wonderful Wells Center here, so I don't know if staff training and professional development, but again, there are things in the district that if we collaborate, I think the Lebanon community would like to see and could benefit from in a building like Central. So when we're all done, a 4-school option then could be a solution that brings you more than 2,100 students. And one of the things I'd like to do with this slide is point out that, so we're talking about operational capacities, operational student populations. We're not talking about cramming them in and trying to create a situation that doesn't create, we want schools to be able to breathe a little bit. So a 4-school option is going to give you some flexible rooms for new programs we might not even think about just yet, but in 5 years, if they happen, you'd be ready to go because you have buildings that have a little bit more capacity. The other thing with growing communities, you can't always say, well, you can come into our community, but you have to live in this part of the community because this is the only school that has room for you. So 4 schools gives you just a little bit more comfort level, because you're attractive, I think, to the area. And it'd be nice if that attraction becomes a reality when people move in, they have 4 schools. So that, I think that kind of summarizes how the 4 schools, it may seem bold, it may seem, well, we weren't thinking it would be that dramatic. On the other hand, if this presentation and what we do in June and July for you start to, and talk about it amongst yourselves and with others. But I think it's fair to say the stakeholder group felt that this was a good direction to go. It was future forward thinking and positions the school district well for like the vision 2025 and the 10 years. Some other things, just placeholders, middle school, high school, transportation, those things will be just part of our feasibility study, budget estimates, and how we get you ready to understand the magnitude and tying it back to Baker Tilley and Belvia's work as well, because we are all going to have to answer to that budget. Thank you. Dr. Millman, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah. I don't have anything to add. That's perfect. That's a perfect summary.
Perfect.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Excellent.
Just ask for questions from the board or comments.
So I have just a quick question.
Absolutely.
And it's not in this presentation, but on towards the last page, page 24, it has the enrollment, the current enrollment, and then what a 4-school option could be. You know, the option would be 2,500. What is the projected growth of students over the next 10 years or 15 years? I know you've done some feasibility studies.
Yeah, the original demographic study spoke to the very original demographic study talked to about 1% growth in the 10 years. But then when you start looking at additional communities and developments, based on our fertility rate compared to our replacement rate, the age of our demographics in our community currently, the demographer is using a ratio of approximately 300 plus homes on the market on an annual basis to generate a % increase per year over the 10 years. And from March of 2020 to March of 2021, that number was 286 in our school district. So we're right about at that number, and we're continuing to add developments. Now, some of those will take 15 years to build out. Some of them will take 12 years to build out. Some of them will take 20 years to build out because some of them they're just plotted. They haven't broken ground. But we have to prepare for that speed. So if the demographer's last conversation with us is based on that and the attractiveness of our community, et cetera, as Jim pointed out, that we should plan to exceed that 1% per year over 10 years. If we don't, worst case scenario is we have usable, flexible spaces for our students and staff for when it happens, and we're prepared for it moving forward. If we do, we're ready for it. And also that potential 4th building with that expandability feature, we could adjust to that if we needed to dial it up if it grew even faster.
Thank you.
Great question.
Well, thanks
Yes.
for all the work that you and your group have done so
You're very
far.
welcome.
I know it's
Very
been, well, a year probably at this point.
It's a nice
of all the
journey.
studies that you've worked
Almost.
on. But I think it's important now, kind of, you know, these presentations are kind of getting out in the community. People are hearing things and seeing things, but just to remember that this is all very preliminary.
Thank you.
And, you know, you do have some images up there, but they're representative. They're not, you know, this is what we're going to do. So just to remember that, and also I've been with Dr. Milliman on a couple of occasions, that this is a great time for public input. So, you know, if there are parents, community members watching right now, and you're watching this and you're saying, oh, did they ever think about this program? Did they think about this? This is a great time to contact one of us or Dr. Milliman to put those ideas out there, because we are in a preliminary stage, and there is flexibility, and this is a time when we could possibly respond to those things within reason and budget and all those considerations. So it's an exciting time. I love seeing these things, and as the process has moved forward. So thank you. I don't know if anybody else wants to add to that.
Thank you.
We'll see
Thank
you
you,
next
sir.
month.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Upcoming board meetings and dates. Last student day, May 25th.
Yes, ma'am.
Countdown is on. And graduation, May 29th, 10
Yes.
a.m.
Hopefully at 10 a.m.
Hopefully at 10 a.m. Praying for good weather, and our next meeting
Mr.
here.
O'Rourke and his team will be providing information to me about school board accommodations for that, and we'll share those with you when it gets closer.
Great, thank you. And our next meeting here, June 15th. Anything else, anyone? We've covered a lot.
I think we've
Been here a
I
while.
think we've covered it all. We are adjourned.
Thank you.